Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rob, and I'm the vet.
Hey, I'm Shay, and I'm the girl.
Hey, okay, then I'll be Murph today, and I'm the maintenance woman. I'm kind of in maintenance now. Close. Welcome to the Waiting Table Podcast. Hello, everybody.
That was good.
Hi, everybody.
I really, really like that. I'm sort of jealous that I didn't come up with that.
You said that last week. You had a whole week to...
I know. Busy week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this very special daytime episode of the Waiting Table Podcast, where we have roundtable discussions about the hottest topics in weight loss with, of course, the coolest people from the bariatric community. I'm Rob. We got Murph. This is Shay. And we got you guys. So grab a chair, wind down from your, I was going to say busy day, but it's sort of midday, depending on where you are today, and take a seat at the table. Shay, how are you feeling about day one of March Madness?
Day one of March Madness. We are coming in hot. This is like I'm going to teach you boys something, okay? This is kind of like the quote unquote Chad thing. Like you kind of go like this, like, yeah. So that, I don't know. That's
what we're going to do?
Yeah.
I
Ready?
just wore a really deep V, though. I hope that's okay.
Yes,
that's
deep V.
Yeah.
We're coming in hot with a deep V with, a little Chad action going on. But we're not talking to a Chad today. So let me get to it. We are so excited to have Carl coming from Barcelona. So that's why we kind of wanted to do a different time. So that way, his friends could join us that are more, on the other side of the world. But Carl is such a cool guy. You guys are going to love his accent. I know I'm annoying about that. He's probably tired of me saying that, but he is the nicest person. And he has a super cool podcast where he gets to talk with a lot of different people on their weight loss journeys. So it's not always bariatric surgery. It can be from other methods as well. So I'm so excited to welcome Carl. We'll get him added in here. Hello.
Hey.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? You hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Very well.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Very, very happy to be here. Thank you so much for letting me be part of March Madness.
Yes, we're kicking it off with you, and we're so excited to have you here.
This is actually the first podcast I've been on that isn't mine, and the nerves started to kick in about half an hour ago. I started feeling nervous. I was like, wow, this is a strange sensation, but I kind of like it, How are you all doing today?
Good.
Murph mentioned that he was getting a bit nervous when he was on IG Live right before here for our happy hour. And you know what? So was I. And I don't know if it's because it's not 9 p.m. here and it's like 3 o'clock, but I had the jitters too. I was a bit nervous. I'm not going to lie, man.
It's kind of like a bromance date. I love, because I know each of you guys, but you guys don't know each other. And so it's kind of like, I'm just a little matchmaker over here because I knew you guys would get along so well.
Thank you for bringing us together, Shay.
For sure.
We'll bring in one of these little matchmakers.
Is this thing? Why does our neck have to do this when we do it?
I don't know what that means.
Okay. All right. I don't know. It's an organ thing.
Kids these days.
Normally when we do the show, it's at night, and I feel like drinking at 3 p.m. too. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but typically we take a shot before the drink or before the show, and see, I need one. I can't
the drink. All right.
I can't. Word today.
It's 8 p.m. here, so you guys crack on. That's fair enough.
We should have taken. I might just go pour one here in a minute.
Well, Murph, I know you have a game because I think, was it just because you were sick of me putting you guys on the spot? You wanted us to do a different game. So do you want to kick us off with the game? It is kind of in honor of Carl, right?
Absolutely. So, Carl, it's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm glad you're here. I know we've spoken via text a few times, and you're just a really pleasant guy. And I don't know how long you've lived in Barcelona. You're originally from where?
So I'm from just outside of London, a region, a county, as we call them, called Essex. And I spent the first 23 years of my life there. And then I spent a few months in a ski resort working in a hotel in Austria. And basically when I got back from that, I promised myself I was going to change my life. I was going to do things I loved. I was going to, get into shape, do all of these things. But basically, to cut quite a long story short, a year to the day later, I wasn't enjoying my life. I'd gone back to all the same habits that I had previously. And on the other side, I had a friend who I'd met in Austria who'd gone off to Barcelona and had the most amazing year of her life. And we were talking because it was the year anniversary since the season finished. And she told me that, and I was like, yeah, I need to do something. So literally in 3 weeks between having that conversation and arriving in Barcelona, I was there. I'd done it. And I'd only planned to stay for 2 months. But then, things happen. I met a local, and now we're married, 2 kids, mortgage, dog, cats. I couldn't leave if I wanted to.
The rest is history. The rest is history.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So how long have you been in Barcelona?
So I'll give my age away now, but I've been there 14 years. So, I arrived in, I think, 2009, 2010. And this will be, I think, my 14th year. But to be honest, when it got to 10 years, I kind of stopped counting because for me, 10 years was like a big milestone. But now it's just, much to the, I'll say, sadness of my mum, but I call this place home and not my other home, my home, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've been here 14 years, and it's a great city. Spain's a lovely country. I know, Murph, I think you said that this is one of the places you really want to visit, and you've got a tour guide now, so you have to come over.
I am definitely coming.
We're gonna bring the waiting table Barcelona. I would love to do that.
That is
European
why we do the
tour.
waiting table, pretty much to try to get tour guys around in different areas. So love it.
So I ask how long you've been there because you might know the answer to some, if not all, of these questions. I want to play a quick game with you guys real quick. I'm texting my wife because I left one of my objects upstairs and I need her to bring it down to me. I don't want to give it away.
That's all right. I got to visit Barcelona. Well, when was it? I think it was 2017, 2018. And I loved it. We were only there for like a short time, but I loved the beach. Like I want to go back.
Yeah, I love it.
This is what's great about it. It has both. Where I live is I live half an hour outside of the centre now because it's just having a family. It's more practical. But we with an hour and a half we have the mountains, we have the beach close by. So this is what I love. There's something to do in all seasons, and people tend to live their lives outside, which is much nicer. So I enjoy that.
Sure.
That's awesome. Well, while Murph did you get your object or are you still waiting for it?
I got it. No, I'm good. Thank you. So I put together just 3 quick questions about Spain and Barcelona and some history. So I don't get to talk about this a whole lot. So I'm totally geeking out right now. I love Barcelona. I love Spain. I love history. I love travel. And this is like my number 1 destination. If somebody were to give me a boatload of cash and say, where do you want to go? I'm going to Barcelona. Like, it's just, it means the world to me. I just absolutely love it.
I thought Murph was going to fangirl over Carl. I didn't know it was going to be Barcelona.
Right?
You promised me it would be about me.
Yeah,
a little bit of both. Sorry, man. We'll get to the fangirling very, very soon, I promise. And especially if you know the answers to some of these questions, that's going to earn you some brownie points as well.
I'll do my best.
But so 3 questions. And if you do know the answers, Carl, let's go. Let's start with Shay, ladies first, and we'll kind of go around the room and end with Carl and see if Carl knows the answer to this one. So there's a large structure. It's in Barcelona, right? The La Sagrada Familia, right? Or Sagrada Familia. What year did they break ground on Sagrada Familia?
2021.
I've got 3 options for you. 1782, 1882, or 1982.
I think it's 1782 is going to be my guess.
Okay.
1882.
I've already guessed 2021.
Rob's going to go with 1882. Carl, do you know this one?
I believe it's 1882.
The boys are right. It was 1882, March 19th, and it's still under construction, and it's supposed to be done in 2026. And so that's my goal, is to get over there right around the time. That's what I'm shooting for, is like 2026 when it's all said and done. Really excited about that. So it's been under construction for 141 years, and I love it. It's beautiful, and
it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And it's one of those. I don't know. Do you have any other questions related to this? Because I don't want to give any spoilers in case there are. But
no, nothing about Anthony Gaudi or anything. Like that.
Okay, this is a Gaudi tour guide.
Yeah, no, but it's just such a beautiful structure, and the thing is, from one side of it to the other, you can actually see, although they kept it very much in the same concept, from one side of a building you can see how old it is, and then how throughout the age the structure's changed. And that's something I absolutely love about it, because it kind of talks you through the history of the building itself. So it's absolutely amazing. Beautiful place.
I chased my kids through it because they were running around. It's a beautiful church to chase your kids through when you're trying to get them to be quiet. Marcus, of course. No, it was Lily.
Yeah, I was going to say. All right. So the boys got it. Number 2, the running of the bulls. When does the running of the bulls take place? Is it May 7th through 14th, June 7th through 14th, or July 7th through 14th?
I'm going to say July. I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm going to say June.
All right.
And
Carl, you must
although
know
I've never been to Pamplona where it is, but I will say May, because I couldn't tell you the dates, but for some reason May stuck out in my head.
Okay. All right. It's actually July 7th through the 14th. So Shay got it right. Yeah. This tradition started in the 14th century. It's completely free to do. Everyone, you have to be 18 or older, and you have to be completely sober. These are like the only requirements to run with the bulls. And you have to follow their.
That one's totally followed all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say people fail on that one, I think. But I'm not allowed to do it. I wanted to in my younger years, but because it is quite dangerous and it looks amazing. It's amazing to see. But the town of Pamplona, because so many people go there, it's only a very small place, and the rest of the year it's a very sleepy, small town that, no one, and then all of a sudden everyone descends on it. And I've never been to it, unfortunately, but it's an amazing tradition.
It's one tradition that I hope to make it to someday, and I don't know if I'll take part. I've in my younger years, I absolutely wanted to run with the bulls, but maybe I will. We'll see.
Do cartwheels.
2026. Yeah, I'll do some cartwheels through the bulls.
There you go.
All right. Third and final question. I think if it's ladies versus guys, we're tied up. So this could be the tiebreaker.
And there's an object.
There's an object for this one. And I got this object last year from a friend of mine who went to Barcelona. And I said, you got to find one of these for me. Carl, do you know what this little guy is? For those listening on Spotify, this is
things are getting graphic up in
here. I do.
A little guy. You know what this is? Okay, so this is a Caganeer, I believe is how they say it, or the Catalonian. The Catalonian Cooper.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is used during Christmas as a traditional stocking stuffer given to bad kids, something similar to coal. B, a nativity scene piece among the shepherds, wise men, and baby Jesus. Or C, a Christmas tree topper.
So just for people who are listening that didn't get to see that, it's essentially a man squatting bare booty with, is it a poop or is it?
It's a poop.
Oh yeah.
It kind of looks like a snake, but
it's a rattlesnake poop.
Yep. Figurine, and it's probably about 4 or 5 inches tall, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a peanut butter blizzard.
That's what it looks like.
He's a peasant. So typically they're a peasant, but you can get these in any sort of character, and there's shops everywhere of these types of things, but typically a peasant. So is it like coal in a stocking, a nativity scene piece, or a tree topper? What do you guys think?
I don't think this is the right answer, but I would totally use that as a nativity scene.
Same with me.
Like 100%. That would be hilarious.
But since you said that, I will say the coal. I'll say the coal.
Okay.
Are you sure, Rob? I think you should go with your instinct, Rob.
I think it's the poop. I think it's the. I totally think it's the nativity scene.
And
It is.
I think you'd be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nativity scene piece.
Is it? Wait, is it really?
Yes, it's a nativity scene piece.
What?
So this possibly started back in the late 17th, early 18th century. People believe that this deposit that this young peasant is giving fertilizes the ground of the nativity scene, which would then ensure growth of any crops for the following year, bringing happiness, wealth, joy, and good fortune. So this peasant is kind of like the little drummer boy. He didn't have anything to give. So he gave his poop.
That's based on interpretation.
I could have thought of better things to give than poop,
So-
but whatever, it is what it is.
A little
You give what you
history,
can.
thank
So
you
you-
for coming to my game.
I'm so impressed, Matt, that you have that there. And
Yeah.
I can send you a photo of our one, because we have our nativity scene we set up at Christmas, and we have one. But something that we did a couple of years ago when we were back visiting my family for Christmas, my grandma also has the nativity scene set up in her house. And we took one and we hid it in there, but we kind of did it in a way that you couldn't actually see what he was doing. And we all had a good laugh, over Christmas, but she had that man squatting. It wasn't until she actually put the nativity scene away that she actually went to put it in the box and realized exactly what it was. So that was quite funny. But now it takes pride of place next to baby Jesus in the manger.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there's frankincense. Is that what myrrh looks like? Totally. Yeah, that's myrrh. That's exactly it.
Another
So now
tradition that we celebrate. Sorry, one more. We celebrated a tradition a couple of Christmases ago. The poop log that you cover with a blanket. Yes, that's what it's called. So you cover the blanket with, or you cover the log with a blanket and stuff it with presents, and then you hit the log and then open the presents up and you sing a little song, and we can't sing that song here, but
wow. Your knowledge of Barcelona is really impressive, because these are specific to Barcelona, Catalonia especially.
Yes.
But the cagatio, the pooping log, is I mean, I don't know what the Catalans' fascination with
so much
things
poop
that
in Christmas.
Exactly. I'm not too sure, but they're good traditions.
And that's something we talk about a lot here on the show is poop. So maybe that's
true.
There's a theme.
All conversations
Totally.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle. Welcome to the waiting table.
Yeah. And now that we know the history of Barcelona, Carl, maybe you could give us some of your history. Can you let us know a bit about your story for those who do not know you on the show?
Yeah, absolutely.
You do not have to include poop if you do not want to, though.
Funny, I was going to start with poop and then go backwards from that. So at 8 o'clock this morning, I decided to sit down and no, I'm not going to go there. So basically, like I said, I've told you how I arrived into Barcelona. My journey in terms of health, I would describe myself as somebody who has a very addictive personality in whatever I do. And this is something that has served me well in some places in my life, but also worked against me in others. And so I've always been like a chubby kid. When I was about 12, that was the first time I was aware that I was perhaps overweight. And this was after a school fashion show that we'd done. The parents came with the kids, the students had to model clothes, and then the parents could buy the clothes at the end. And one of the parents, he was talking to my mum when I finished, and I came so excited that I'd been part of it, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not shy at all. And he looked down at me and said, "Oh, Carl, you've definitely got footballer's legs, haven't you?" And I was like, because I'd been wearing shorts. I was like, "Oh, what does he mean by that?" And I was like, "Wow, he's saying I've got fat legs." And I remember that, and I must have been like 11, I think, when that happened. And that was like the first awareness I had of it. And then from then, I kind of become more self-aware. I guess I just like entered adolescence. I was starting puberty, and for some reason, I'd always been quite skinny, and that kind of triggered weight gain. And I wasn't really very sporty. I'd kind of like been in fit club. Instead of playing football, which I wasn't very good at, I kind of moved into rugby because that's what the bigger boys were playing. And it kind of suited me. I enjoyed it, but I never really did anything about it or felt the need to. And I was part of a family where my mum also suffers with her weight and depression as well. And so it kind of, I think the two were quite combined. Although as a young child, I didn't suffer with depression, I think that there's always been quite an emotional attachment to my weight, and especially seeing my mother with that issue and problem that she's had as well. So I went through my 20s and into my 30s, very happy. I like enjoying my life. I didn't really necessarily feel that being overweight stopped me from doing anything. I enjoyed myself. But then it wasn't until in more recent years that I started thinking more about the health side of things. And this year I'll be turning 40. And I know you're thinking, how? Not possible. But it is true. I will be. And last year I started thinking about, how do I want to arrive at 40? And how do I want to ensure that for my kids, I can be the healthiest version of myself? Because it suddenly dawned upon me that, you're not as young as you were. In your 20s, I feel like you can get away with anything. You can do anything. Your body's quite forgiving. But approaching 40, my back starts to ache and things like that. And so I realized last year that I really wanted to arrive in a state of fitness and good health, whatever that looked like. But compared to where I was in that moment, which was overweight, quite unhealthy, drinking too much, not really caring about my diet, not really doing any sport, what could I do? So I started going to the gym, started calorie counting, and managed to actually throughout the year obtain the healthiest version of myself, and wear jeans smaller waist size than I had since I was 16. And so I was very proud of my achievement. And now as I'm approaching 40, I just want to carry on with that momentum and see where that takes me, but very, very happy with what I've achieved so far.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations about leading up for 40 and really celebrating what you've achieved and really wanting to prioritize things, because that's exactly where I was this year. I just turned 40. Murph turned 40 about 5 years ago, and it was something that was he just turned 40 as well. But yeah, it's a big milestone, and I think a lot of times we look at that milestone and a lot of people approach it with somewhat of a sense of dread. And after you go through a year, after you've prioritized your health and going into this next step of your life healthy and happy, it's a celebration. Like, I absolutely love turning 40 because I've never been at this point in my life, physically, emotionally, mentally. It's great. So I love hearing that from you, Carl, for sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And that was quite selfishly just talking about myself. I had 2 amazing children as well, and a wife. We've been just celebrated 10 years of marriage, and a lot of amazing other things going on in my life as well. But obviously, I am the guest on the show, so I thought I'd talk about me.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
What an ego.
That is, I could think of a lot of ways to describe you, Carl, and ego would be like not there.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm curious, Carl, what got you into like podcasting and wanting to, and maybe if you could tell people a bit of what you do on your podcast, the people that you talk with, and kind of like how that got started.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. So as a child, I was always interested with like wanting to record myself, like doing radio interviews with myself. I've actually got a tape from when I was like maybe 7 years old, interviewing myself. And it's incredible to do, but we're going back to a time now where obviously the internet hadn't been invented yet. So the radio is really like that outlet for things. And so I tried getting onto hospital radio when I was like a teenager and trying to do university radio. But because I didn't go to university, it was quite a difficult thing to get into for me. And but I always had that drive, always interested in drama and acting and things like that. So that kind of went to the side, and I never really revisited that as I got older. And I don't know why I'd never considered doing a podcast before I did. But then last year I was visiting, I spent a couple of weeks working in the UK remotely and staying with my family, and kids were practicing their English. And during that time, I had quite a few good conversations with my mum. And because we don't spend as much time together as we would if we were both in the same town, it was really good just to chat to her. And one of the questions and one of the conversations we had was about her weight. And because she's been going to a slimming group, which in the UK is called Slimming World, which is, I think, the equivalent of Weight Watchers in the US, for example. And she's been going for maybe 12 years and has never reached her target. Her weight has gone up, it's gone down. She's always kept going. She absolutely loves it, but she's never hit her target. And I kind of asked her quite openly, and quite straightforward, quite bluntly, why do you still go if you've never reached your target? And she, I see her think about the answer, but she was quite sure of herself. And she said that basically, if I didn't go, I'm terrified of what size I would be, because once a week she goes in for a weigh-in. She has chat with her friends, and they are friends. It's more of a social event for her now, but that holds her accountable on a weekly basis. And regardless if she comes home and she orders a takeaway or she doesn't eat that great, she knows that come back next Wednesday, she will go. And there's that level of accountability that helps her a lot. And I asked her why she didn't think she'd actually reached her target before. And she said, because as much as she loves going on that weekly weigh-in and seeing her friends, in between that, it gets quite lonely. And the reason I remember so well is because she used that exact word, lonely. And that kind of really hit me hard. And to be honest, it triggered quite a lot of feelings of guilt because I'm not there all the time. And it was quite difficult hearing her say that she felt lonely, especially when I knew it was having a negative impact on her. And we talked about it some more, and like I started thinking about how could people become supported or have a way of feeling less lonely in between the weigh-ins, even if they're not going to a slimming club. Because it suddenly dawned upon me there must be thousands, millions of people who have not just maybe weight management issues, but feel lonely, but feel they need support in some way, who might want to start a journey of weight loss but don't know how, who may have tried and failed many times. But what could I try and do to support her, but in a wider community? And I went to bed that night, woke up at 3 a.m. and could not sleep. This thing, and I don't know if it was because my mum had said she was lonely or what it was, but it was in my head. I could not get rid of it. And for about 2-3 hours, I laid in bed thinking about it. And all of a sudden I thought, why don't I do a podcast that helps people? And then I started thinking, okay, how could I help people? And then I thought, one of the things that everybody loves and everybody gets inspired by is a success story. So I thought, okay, there's probably hundreds of podcasts. You know, I'm a bit late to the game for this. And I woke up the next morning, once I finally got back to sleep, and I started looking for weight loss success stories. And I couldn't find one. I could not find I couldn't find a podcast dedicated to only weight loss success stories. Lots of podcasts about dieting, lots of podcasts about personal health, this kind of thing, like coaching, but nothing but just focused on success stories, or at least nothing but focused on success stories from various methods of weight loss. I saw some from Weight Watchers, I saw some from Slimming World, that was very, very directly focused on their purpose, which is great for the people who are doing that. But then I started thinking, but what if you have a way of bringing everybody together? Because for me, it doesn't matter whether you're losing weight through bariatric surgery, whether you're doing calorie counting, keto, as long as one of the things I'm quite strict on is that it has to be only promoting healthy ways of losing weight. And I say healthy in ways that, it's recognized as not something that's seriously dangerous. And I thought, okay, I can't find it. I'm going to do it. I am going to have a podcast. And so that was in mid-August. And on 2nd of September, in that 2 weeks, have been reaching out to people on Instagram, speaking to people. And I had my first episode for broadcast of the Weightloss Warrior Podcast. And since then, I haven't looked back. It's been an amazing, amazing journey. I've met amazing people, continue to do so. Rob Murphy, for example. And the feedback I've had has just been incredible. Much more, I set out to help one person if possible. But every week I get messages say, this person's story inspired me. I loved listening to this. And it's not about me. It's about the people who are on the show and their stories. I'm just a vehicle to connect those people. And so I've now, this week, actually about to release episode 50. And it's amazing. I'm absolutely loving the journey. And each episode, just to give you some more information about the podcast quickly, is really each episode focuses on the journey of somebody, on their history, how they've been. I had one amazing guest, actually, Shay herself. She was a weight loss warrior, and talking about her journey through with bariatric surgery. And what I found is that each episode is so personal and unique to every single person, but there are so many similarities, regardless of the method, that brings people together. And I absolutely love that aspect of it. So yeah, that's what's going on with me at the moment with the podcast.
I love it. And we actually have one of a fellow warrior on. I'm going to share her comment. Kath said, I love Carl's podcast. I'm a proud warrior that was on Carl's podcast, and I listened at the gym. The stories are so motivating, and Carl is such a lovely person. His personality and empathy shine. And I have to echo that as well. Like, I feel like, there's certain people on Instagram that I just like connect with. Murph and Rob were two of those people, and Carl, you were another one too, where it's like I just can see the care and how much responsibility or like reverence, I guess, that you hold for what you do. And I think that's really special because it's coming from a place of wanting to support other people, wanting to love other people. And that's not everybody's intent. And not necessarily that means that people have bad intentions, but it's just, I think, more rare to see that. And so that's something that I was drawn to right away from you. And these guys too, actually, except for Rob. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. And that's really appreciated. But the strange thing is, I'm one of these people who's grown up as an entrepreneur. I always get imposter syndrome calling myself an entrepreneur because I've never had a business that's allowed me to quit my full-time job or anything, but I have one of these brains that's constantly thinking of the next big idea and what I can do. And, you know, I've had some success, but I still work full-time in my job. So until I have that, I won't call myself a successful entrepreneur. But every single project I've always started and failed has always been with, how can I make money out of this? Whereas this has been a project where a lot of people make very good money from podcasting. And who knows in the future what opportunities might be there. But this has never been my focus. And yet it's been the project that I feel most drawn to, I enjoy the most, and I'm enjoying, which is quite strange. But, you know, and they do say that if you have a passion, follow it, and the rest will follow. And if it does, it does. If it doesn't, that's just the fact of helping people, like you guys do with the waiting table. I'm sure you will agree, gives such a good sense of worth and purpose, knowing that you are connecting people, you're helping people. And I think it's amazing. The fact that all three of you have absolutely amazing stories. And I'd like to say congratulations to each of you, because having looked at your journeys, where you've come from, what you've done. And I know it's not easy as well, because this is something else. And sorry, tell me if I'm talking too much. If this is my opportunity, normally I'm there listening to others.
I know, that's why
you
I
go
wanted
with
you
it.
to
I
be
love
on
it.
here. This is great.
It's all got to come out. But what I was going to say, I think that when I first started the podcast, I leaned towards Slimming World. And the majority of my guests, even now, probably 80% of my guests have been from this one method of weight loss. And it isn't because I'm exclusive to them. It isn't because I believe that's the best. It's really not. But it's where I had experience, I had knowledge. It was my comfort zone. And I'll be honest, I truly kind of moved purposely away from bariatric surgery and guests. I didn't actively go to find guests who have had bariatric surgery. And the reason was, I think more than anything, was of my ignorance to exactly what it was, and my preconception of what bariatric surgery was, the kind of solution it was, and why people had it. And I don't mind admitting it now, but I was one of those people who thought that it was seen as like an easy way, if you can't fix it yourself, just go and get it fixed medically. But having the opportunity to speak to people who have had bariatric surgery and actually learn more about it now, I would say it's probably one of the more difficult weight loss methods that there is. And so to know the journey you must have gone through, and under the journey you still go through, because obviously they do an operation on you, but everything up here doesn't change from one day to the next. And coping, the recovery, there's so much you have to go through. So, a very heartfelt congratulations to you on your journeys, because you've done amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carl.
No,
go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
I mean, it's interesting to hear you say that, even when I was larger and in need of the surgery or in need of something, I thought of bariatric journey, the bariatric procedure being the easy way out, and cheating and not really putting in the work, but it's definitely become more of a mental game than anything. And that's something that I talk about on my channel, on my page a lot. And I try to highlight on here a little bit too, does the matter of which you do your journey, does that really affect your mindset at all? You know what I mean? If you lose weight the easy way or the hard way, I mean, you still have the trauma to deal with. You still have the reasons for the overeating you know, I yo-yo diet for a long time, and I did Weight Watchers, and I did a lot of different things to try to lose weight. I was a vegan for 8 months, and you know, I did so many different things, and I lost you know, a lot of weight, and then gained it back, and then lost it and gained it back. Um, would you say because bariatric surgery is surgery that it's more mental heavy, that it takes more of a toll on your mental game, or is it the same as any weight loss journey, or which, you know, what would you compare it to, I guess, or which one is, you know what I mean? Is
I
there
get it.
is Yeah.
I think the thing about if I exclude bariatric surgery, just focus on every other weight loss method that people are commonly following at the moment, the process is relatively long, depending on how much weight you have to lose, but it's a longer journey. Whereas I think for a lot of people, they see the surgery as, okay, one day I haven't had surgery, then I have surgery, and that's going to fix everything. So I think a lot of people see it almost like a switch, like this could fix everything. And I think, unfortunately, it's being marketed in that way in some ways. A lot of places not, but I think there's a lot of irresponsible marketing taking place to say, okay, you know, this can fix all your problems, when I don't necessarily believe it does. And so I think that whether or not it's more or less difficult, I'd say the surgery is more permanent in the fact that you go in and have that procedure, but the result I don't think is any easier, because of the fact that for a lot of people, the mental side of things, the binge eating, the trauma, as you said, that doesn't disappear, and that's what has to be worked on. And I think, Shay, you said it perfectly and really beautifully when we were talking about your journey, how you had worked on yourself first before opting for this. And I think that is 100% the correct way for somebody to approach it in the right mind, because you're not coming necessarily from a place of desperation. I mean, obviously, some people you could still be, because depending on your situation, depending on what you're going through, there could still be that element of desperation. But I don't think you necessarily are more likely to make that decision based on desperation and thinking that this is going to be a quick fix method, because I think your well-being is in a better place, and that is something that has to be looked after. So, I mean, I've spoken to people from various weight loss methods, and some people, like you said, yo-yo diet, have success and then it goes back, and this will continue. And something I didn't realize was possible, but was with bariatric surgery as well. It can happen, you know, people can still go back. So if you aren't working on yourself, on other aspects of yourself and well-being, that can still happen. So it's definitely not permanent, and it's definitely not easy. And I think what you're doing here with the podcast, speaking about it, the opportunities, being the real side of it, is so important, because I think it gives people that opportunity to learn and maybe not change their mind about it, but think twice and think more seriously about it, as opposed to just thinking, I can book myself into a hospital and within a few weeks, I won't be, you know, overweight anymore. And obviously that's not true. Even if you do have a surgery, it takes time and it takes recovery, and, you know, you're going to be eating liquids for weeks and all of that comes with it. But I do think this education is so important, because for a lot of people, I think this is a really positive method of losing weight. And, you know, for many health reasons, many different reasons. And this was something I was completely ignorant to. And I'm so glad I've had the opportunity to learn. But I also think there's a lot of people out there who have that same ignorance. And it's through no fault of their own. It's just something that, you know, you see it portrayed in the media, you hear it, you think weight loss surgery. And you think, obviously, it's, you know, the same as going to get your nose done or your boobs done or something like that. But it's, you know, you go in one day, you come out the same day, and it's fixed. But it's really not as simple as that.
Yeah. And I think I really try to be balanced with sharing my story, because there was a lot of preparation and work that I did mentally and emotionally before surgery. And it was still really hard mentally and emotionally after the fact. And so I have people that will comment sometimes and say, wow, I can't believe you're only a year post-op. Like, you know, that's kind of crazy. Like, it took me 5 years to learn the stuff that you're talking about now. But but people didn't see my journey prior to when I started sharing it, you know? And so the thing that the surgery did for me is it just opened up the capacity and what I was pouring into physically. It's like I didn't have to worry about it in the same way anymore. And then that's when it's like this last year has felt like 10 years just with the growth and stuff that's come from it. And so it kind of just removed a barrier, but it's one of those things where it's like, careful what you wish for, because when you move that barrier that you've always wanted to move, you don't know necessarily what's on the other side of it. And that's what's been the scary part of like, oh, wow, I thought it was going to just be green grass and butterflies and beautiful things. And it's like, oh, there's still quite a bit to sort through after that, which is scary.
Yeah, I think the common denominator, regardless of your method of weight loss, is really addressing the habits that sort of got you to the point. And more importantly, I think has caused us to fail in our many attempts to lose weight, right? Because a lot of us have tried. Murph mentioned it. I've tried many times to lose weight, and you would lose weight, but then it was a matter of how am I going to keep that off? And we don't, because we haven't addressed a lot of these habits. And whether it's through bariatric surgery, something like Weight Watchers, diet and exercise, moderation, any of those things, keto, you need to be able to address those habits and correct them. And that's hard, right? Whether you've had bariatric surgery and that switch has gone off, and, you know, and whether these habits are going to be just physical or mental or whatever the case might be, at some point you're going to have to address them. And I think with bariatric surgery, a lot of the things that we've done physically, like it gives us that physical stop. You know, I can't overeat right now, but that doesn't change the way that I emotionally feel about food. It doesn't change the way I mentally feel about food or think about food. But at some point, I'm going to have to address that. Whereas I think, you know, with other methods of weight loss, I may address that a bit earlier on versus the physical aspect. And so I think at the end of the day, it ends up being, regardless of whatever you do, whatever method you do and you follow to get that weight loss, it is a holistic change of your mindset and your life and who you are. And that's why for me, like I congratulate anyone who makes that decision, whether it's through bariatric surgery or otherwise, on losing weight and gaining their health back, because it takes a lot, regardless of what method, right? It is changing the person I've been for the past 36 years, 37 years, Murph 55 years, right? Like it's
it's
sorry.
Shay 12 years.
Shay 12 years. You know, it's been a very hard teenage life. So yeah, it's hard. And, you know, I commend everyone who makes that change. It's awesome.
And I'm curious for you, Carl, because you had said that, you know, you tend to have an addictive personality. I think that's pretty common. Like we see that a lot with people we talk with as well. Do you feel like you have a better grasp on that now, or like what has changed to kind of, or has anything changed to kind of help cope with from that?
You know, I definitely believe I've come a long way in the last, probably, I mean, my journey, I kind of feel like since I moved to Barcelona, it was kind of like a reset for me in many aspects. But when I think, was it because I moved to Barcelona? And the truth is, it wasn't actually so much that I moved here, it's that I met my wife. And I had two options, really. You know, I could change, not because she was forcing me to, but because the person I was when we met, I wouldn't really want to date me. You know, I was a great guy, I was nice, but I would go out and get blind drunk, and, you know, I wasn't reliable. I wasn't really taking care of myself. And if we wanted to have a long-term relationship, some things had to change, because quite rightly so, she wasn't really willing to put up with some of the behaviors that I had and some of the habits that I had. And people often joke about, you know, you meet the person, you know, someone falls in love with you for who you are and spends the rest of their life trying to change you. But this was coming from a place of concern, I think, more than anything. And I recognized that we loved each other, but my habits and behaviors were not conducive to a long-term and happy relationship together. So I had the choice. And that really helped me to grow up in a number of ways. And yet at the same time, I still sometimes surprise myself, and not in necessarily a good way, that I've lost weight, I'm going to the gym, but I'm very, very close to a line where I'll find myself sitting there binge eating sweets, and afterwards realize, why did I do that? And then almost justifying it to myself that, I'm healthier now. I can get away with doing this, whatever kind of BS in my mind that I kind of give myself to justify it. And then I think, okay, and it's good in a way that it's sobering to me that it's not completely fixed. It's not completely where I want to be, because it's a journey. We're all on a journey. And I think you have to be compassionate and be kind to yourself in that respect, that if it was easy to solve like that, we wouldn't have any of these issues. Our podcast wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be needed. And so I kind of appreciate sometimes having one of those situations where it kind of reins me in a little bit and say, okay, Carl, don't take it for granted. Keep working on yourself, keep pushing, keep striving to be a better person, because today it could be me digging into the kids' Halloween sweets while they've gone to bed. Tomorrow it could be me going out on a 14-hour drinking binge and throwing my marriage away. And so I definitely think leading a healthier life is helping me to rein that in, but also working on myself through coaching, through reading, just also I think getting older as well, and learning to appreciate that this won't last forever. So what's really more important to me, my children, for example, I want to be a good dad to them. I want to be here as long as possible. My parents divorced when I was very young, and I think a lot of, not trauma as such, but a lot of things that I've not even addressed yet and probably haven't been prepared to address yet are sitting there bubbling away. And maybe one day I'll turn to that and look at, the relationship I had with my family, my parents, my stepdad. And I'm sure a lot of that has had an impact on the person I've become, for good and for bad. But I'm aware that there are things that have to be worked on. And so I don't think if you have an addictive personality, it's ever something that necessarily disappears. It's always there lurking.
Yeah. And I've learned too, just over time, that, those things that you talked about that are kind of just like bubbling, your body and your mind and your heart lets you know when it's time to like explore that. And I think before, for me, I always had such I put so much pressure on myself of I have to get everything done right now or else the world is going to end. Like that's how it felt. And it's like, what a blessing though. And it's just cool to rest in that sometimes, of like, this is a never ending thing. Sometimes that can feel a bit scary and overwhelming, but then other times it's like, oh yeah, there's the only timeline I'm on is mine. I don't have to do anything for anybody else. I can, go down the journey. If I don't want to explore that aspect right now, I don't have to. My body will tell me when I'm ready. And something that I think is interesting, just because you brought it up, Carl, too, is the research that's out there about adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. There's lots of interesting research that just shows that, sometimes we say trauma and it's like, wow, that's such an intense word, right? But we've all experienced traumas in our life. Like that's inevitable. And research has shown, that trauma as children impacts how we function as adults. And so I know sometimes it can be easy. I'm not saying you were doing this, but I think it just, for people who are listening, this might be helpful, of like, sometimes it's easy to discount that and go, oh, well, my parents did the best they could. And you know what? Yeah, that's probably part of it too. And there was stuff that was done that was still damaging. And I know for me, I'm working through that now as an adult, trying to learn, how to navigate that and cope differently. And so I just because you brought that up, I thought it was a good thing to bring awareness to for people who are listening.
No, I think it's a great point. And something, just like, if I could just jump on what you mentioned there, which was really interesting. You said that the thing is that the journey never ends. But I think something that's becoming more and more apparent to me is that while I'm on the journey, it doesn't end, but it will end. And that's something that I think I was going through life without even considering. And I don't want to, make it morbid. I don't see it. I think if anything, it's the opposite of that. But you realize all of a sudden that, as you get older, you start to lose people closer to you. And unfortunately, as you do get older, the frequency kind of increases. And it's something that you do realize you can't take life for granted. And you have that option of making changes now. And you have that the whole of your life until it ends to keep improving. And you might, only get to 80% of where you want to. You might only get to 50%, but that's still 50% closer than you are today. So why not go for it?
Definitely. I think that's something that a lot of people either you understand that at an early age, that your days are numbered essentially, or something either traumatic or something happens in your life, that brings you to that light bulb moment where you're like, wow, I really got to do something and change my lifestyle, because this isn't, Rob has said it before, like when he was overweight, he's watching his kids grow, and he wasn't living. Like he wasn't. I don't know how you worded it exactly.
Oh, I am an a present absentee father,
There
if
you
you could
go.
be one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it's just, and sometimes we just need that kick in the butt. Like something needs to happen. For me, it was like COVID. I got super sick, and my marriage was like bottoming out, and like so many different things were going on. And it's just like, I'm here, but I'm not here. I'm alive, but I'm not living. My kids are growing up, and I don't even, I can't even, I'm present, but I'm not, And so, um, just to tag on to the end of what you were saying. But I do have a question for you. I don't know if you guys have any more questions. I know we're
No, go
getting
for it.
toward the end here, but Carl, we're talking about like your addictive personality, and now you're addicted to podcast. I take it is, no, I'm just kidding. But this is this is a
I
lot of
am,
fun,
but
no, it's great, and being able to meet new people and being on here and learning, how they do it, and how and man, I've learned so much just from sitting here just for this past 50 minutes just talking to you. That this is how we learn and grow together. But what do you do as far as like a daily routine or regimen? Are you hitting the gym? Do you jog, run? What is it that does occupy your time so that we're not drinking or binge eating and things like that? I know that, idle hands are the devil's playground. So what are you doing to occupy your time, and how are you staying healthy?
absolutely. So I think, I mean, I have in my head exactly what I would love to do on a daily basis. And I've learned to give myself kind of bandwidth either side of that. But, just to accept that not every day I can stick 100% to the plan, because, I have a full-time job, two young children. I have, a desire to go to the gym 4 times a week. But I'll take you through what I consider, in an ideal world situation without all the other things that come up in between. So for me, I try to get to the gym 4 times a week. And that's mainly weights. So upper body twice a week, lower body twice a week. And I'd never been able to actually stick to the gym for longer than about 3 months. So to be able to know I'm now a year and nearly 4 months into doing this, it's become part of my lifestyle. And I actually get a bit angry if I had planned to go and something crops up and I can't go. So I kind of recognize that change and appreciate that. My wife appreciates it a little less when I'm, stomping around the house because I've had to, go and do something more important in that moment. But so there's that side of it. I work from home. I work for a large human resources and payroll company. So I'm very much sat at my desk during working hours, which again, doesn't really help a healthy lifestyle. But it does give me the opportunity, if I can't go to the gym in the morning, to go at lunchtime. I can take the dog for a walk, and I just try and look for opportunities to be active, because if I don't, I'm very conscious that I'm sat down in front of that computer screen for at least 8 hours a day. So sometimes it could just be walk in to take the rubbish, take the trash, as you guys call it, take that out, and do things like that.
Don't Americanize it. I like it.
I here in Spain they use a lot of American words, and so I find myself saying I'm going to put gas in the car. If I go back to England, I get absolutely slaughtered for saying things like that. The day I called my trousers my pants. Oh, that was a bad day. But I just look for opportunities. Yeah, petrol, there you go, or diesel. But I just look for opportunities really just to be active. And this is something I've realised that it's so important to move and find something you enjoy. So I mean, you asked if I run. I have ran in the past, and I trained and did a half marathon, but I don't really like running that much. I find it boring. And so I was like, why am I going to do that to myself just in the name of health? Because I feel like it's not sustainable. And that's something, I'm realizing. So I try to eat healthy. I track my calories. I have a calorie target every day, and I track my total calories and my protein intake, because I'm trying to now actually build up a little bit, gain a bit more muscle. So that's my target there. We have the mountains very close, as I said earlier. So, try and plan at least once every couple of months to go to the mountains for a hike. I have a bicycle, but I don't get to ride as often as I want. But I really I think by having these things around you, almost like a toolkit, various tools, different days you can pick up a different tool and use it. It doesn't have to be obsessive. It doesn't have to be one specific thing that you do, and even less so if you don't enjoy it. But I just try to consciously do something every day that I know benefits my health, and I'm at peace with that. I won't be able to do it every day, but that's what I aim for.
And just being mindful that you have those opportunities. I mean, you listed off, 16 different things that you can do it, and any given, you've got all these opportunities, whereas, I would sit and if I'm bored or, the last thing I'm thinking is like go on a walk or go on a bike ride. It was always food, it was always, I'm going to get up. That was the only thing worth doing. Yeah. But now being in Barcelona, and it sounds like that's where a lot of that was your tipping point, your turning point, and you've got a lot of opportunities there to, live a healthier, happier overall lifestyle. So that's awesome, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good for you.
Carl, I do have a question in regards to podcasting.
Of course.
So, obviously you've talked about the joy that you get from podcasting and interviewing and having other people on your show who have been successful with their weight loss journeys. What is your least favorite thing about podcasting? Because I know what mine and Murph's was for the first, how many shows are we in? Long time.
I'm going to contradict myself because my worst thing is actually something I enjoy the most after I've done it. But it's the thing that I procrastinate on the most and the thing that to get started, and that's editing each episode after I've recorded it.
Yep.
The same for you.
That's not number one because one thing really stuck it to us for a long time. But
Rob doesn't like to wear shirts. That's really his hangout.
That's mine. I have to wear shirts during the podcast, so that's my.
See, I don't record. I turn the camera off when I record mine, so I sit there, as I wish.
Unless you're with me and I'm like, Carl, I want to be able to see you while we talk.
and the one particular day, the first conversation I've ever recorded with camera was with Shay, and I was sat there in a fluffy pizza fleece of all things because it was freezing cold here, and I even brought it just in case Shay picked me up on it, but I was wearing this, and so
demanding.
Perfect, I love it.
I like it.
She really is. You guys are very patient with her.
Right?
So I think the editing thing for me, I love it because when I'm actually recording an episode, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but I hear different things. When I edit it, I go back and listen again. And because I'm listening so intently to it, I really listen to the conversation much more than I perhaps do during the actual recording because I'm thinking of different things and thinking about my next question and making sure that everything's working okay. So I love that aspect of it because I really feel like I connect with the person on an even deeper level than in the live version. But knowing that each episode I'm going to be sat there for perhaps 2 hours editing it and going through it to get to the finished production where I'm happy with it. That's why it's difficult because it would be probably one of the first things I would maybe push if I ever got sponsorship or I decided to spend money on the podcast and invest more money. I'd potentially do that, but then at the same time, I feel like I'd be missing a very important aspect of that because I'd be kind of handing over that ownership of how it's going to sound to somebody else. So I think although it's very it takes a lot of time to do it, maybe if I could, do the image, the logo work or different artwork or things like that, so that the time that I did have available, I could focus on that. Perhaps I'd be happier about it because it wouldn't just be one of 10 things I had to do.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. I get that totally. Our thing was, I don't know. I'm not gonna speak for you, Murph, but for me, it was we had a lot of tech issues early on, a ton, all the time, and so early on, we really wanted to do it on Instagram, but we also wanted to use the platform that we currently use as well, because we wanted to put it on YouTube. We wanted to put it on Facebook. We wanted to put it on Instagram. Instagram, we can't do it at the same time on this platform. So we had to have a little phone for Instagram Live. And then we had to have the separate camera to do on the other platform. And then it's constantly like, okay, looking back and forth. And then we had to do a setup call with every guest. And then we had to have one earbud for Instagram. And then something had to be muted. And then the other thing had to be for StreamYard, which is their other platform. And so we couldn't have any of the, like one mic had to be, the mics couldn't be muted, but they couldn't pick up on anything else because then it would echo. And while you're doing the questions, while we're talking with guests, and I'm trying to manage all this and, start the intro music and make sure mics are unmuted and all this stuff. Like, I would love to have like a tech guy, a tech person to run all that. I totally get you in regards to the editing. I like you. I would like to see the finished product and be able to sort of put my input and watch it again, as you had mentioned. But I think during having a tech person, I would love, because we struggled.
Live though is different. Like
100%.
That's what I think makes it so different too. When you do it, I'm used to doing more pre-recorded stuff. I know that's how you do it too, Carl. The pressure is like off because you're editing it. Like, it doesn't really have to be great, or like you can edit stuff out or whatever. But having it live is just that adds more pressure. And I tried it when they first had me on. I tried the whole thing. I'm like, you guys, we just have to do YouTube. This is out of control. I can't do it.
I love that part. It's fun.
I have a question, if I could. Sorry, Murph, I know you're about to, but just before I forget it, I think the dynamic of doing it live, everything you just described there, Rob, for me, it felt a little bit stressful. Having, like you said, there's so many different elements you have to monitor. And I think this is perhaps why I just started with very simple: record an episode, edit it. But then after it's happened, it's too late to really change anything. You don't know until the end if it's recorded well, if it comes out good, if you ask the right questions, if the person sounded right. Whereas I think when it's live, you have that opportunity to correct things as you go. As long as the basics are in place, the conversation we've had now, I'm sure that if you were to then stop it, listen back to it, you would edit pieces out, you would change things. But I guess the audience, everyone who's watching at the moment, they know it's live. They don't mind. They probably, in a way, it's much more interactive. There's so many benefits 100%. That add to that as well. So I think they're two very different dynamics.
For sure.
And neither's right or wrong, but I don't think I'm brave enough at this stage to go full on camera, theme music live and everything like that.
It's interesting because there have been guests.
The hardest part is when we go to talk at the same time like that.
Yeah, like stop. I said it first. I started.
I said what? I was talking, and that's where it gets really hard. Is like when to talk. I was just editing from last week, Amy, and she said something, and we just stared at her because I think we were all like wanting to say something, but nobody said anything. So there's like 10 seconds of just nothing, and we're all just
you're using visual cues to try to be like, did he unmute his mic? Yes. Okay. Oh no.
And so that's what I've been trying to do, is like mute my mic or unmute it when I'm getting ready to talk, and maybe you'll see that I'm getting ready to talk, but then I forget to mute it again or whatever. And so it comes with its challenges, and but it's fun. I enjoy the interaction, and being able to see, to be able to see you guys, and then we're answering, comments or questions in real time, and able to share those too. And it's just that whole interaction piece is just so important to me. And I think that's why Rob and I started, live on Instagram, was because we wanted to just be up front and just, it's all here,
Well, and you have to go to the table, right? Yeah. Coming to our table and us breaking bread and sharing stories. Well, we want you there with us to talk with us about it, and we can respond with you. But even things like on Spotify, which I think we recognize this later on, it's just like we're reading something live, and then we're answering it live, and then we're just like, the person listening on Spotify has no idea what we're applying to because we didn't read out the question. So they're like, okay, now we have to take into reading the question. And same thing with having it on YouTube, for example. It's like, okay, well, we can make jokes about things like body language or whatever the case might be going on, but then we have to keep in mind people who are on Spotify or listening to the podcast just audioly, right? So
and this is exactly why for everybody except Shay, I turned the video off because of those visual cues, because of that body language, because of that interaction, because I think they say that so much of more than 80% of human interaction is visual as opposed to actually is the verbal words that are being said. Whereas if you record in that way with a camera on, you kind of you kind of desensitize people who are just listening because they kind of miss that aspect of it, which is why I was very strict until that fateful day where Shay kind of forced me.
Sheesh.
Y'all
and
know
I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong.
I'm a rebel. I'm always trying to push the envelope, so to speak.
He had to bust out his pizza shirt and everything.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I think I definitely pick up on visual cues a lot, but I always think, if people do that, they have the option to watch YouTube. And if not, you kind of just fill in the blanks the best that you can. And I don't know. I don't think it's too big of a deal, but.
No, especially when you say, all right, describe this.
Yeah. And then we're all laughing. We're like, oh, that's so cool. I'm going to guess this.
Spotify friend.
I feel like I described it pretty well, right?
You described it really well. But even right now, if you're listening on Spotify, you have no idea what we're talking about.
Right. We just held up a butt and you didn't know that.
Well, we won't say who, but.
And the detail you went into, I can't remember. What did you call it now? The specific, a rattlesnake poop. That was it. Yes. It was a rattlesnake poop. Everyone can imagine what that looks like. So that's good.
There you go.
Well, hey, Carl, I know we're kind of, we went over a little bit, but where can people find you if they're like, I want to hear more of Carl's accent and amazing voice? Where can they go listen and find you?
Absolutely. So thank you. So probably the best place to find me is my Instagram channel, which is at Weightloss Warrior Podcast. And the reason being is just that's where I'm most active. And that's where I will share when there's new podcasts out, etc. But I'm on all the major YouTube. Sorry, not YouTube. See, if this wasn't live, we could edit that out. I'm not on YouTube. So
or maybe
Spotify, Apple.
That maybe you should be on YouTube. I would love to see more of Spain. Just saying, like family vlog.
Okay. Number one fan right here. I'd be watching every day.
So I feel honestly, Murph, that your knowledge and excitement and passion for Barcelona is kind of inspiring me to want to do that, or at least I'm gonna have to get your address and send you a little care package, I think. So make sure you send that to more poops, exactly. But so yeah, Instagram's the best place. And if you want to see where else I am or you have a question, please just say hello. Honestly, that interaction that we've talked about is so important, and I absolutely love it. Whether you're on a weight loss journey, whether you want to get started and don't know how, doesn't matter. Where in the world you are, just say hello. I love interacting with people, and whether it's weight loss related or not, it's just a pleasure to have this opportunity. And thank you guys so much for letting me be part of this. And I wish you all the very best with the rest of your March Madness.
Thank you. Well, it was a great way to kick it off. And we'd love to have you back another time. And hey, you don't have to edit this episode. That's kind of fun, right?
There you go. Leave it to Rob. Rob's not going to edit anything. Everything's going to be all in, so it'll be good.
Lucky I have plenty of others to go and edit straight away now, but
perfect. Carl, thank you so much. And thank you all of you guys for joining us on the Waiting Table Podcast, where we're serving the weight loss community
one pound at a time.
Thanks, everybody. Now we get to go in Barcelona. It's a siesta time, right? We could go take a nap in between, or
one of those guys
showing the booty. Not his. Don't worry, guys. Oh boy, this is an interesting one.
Yeah. Why aren't you guys dancing?
I felt weird dancing with the poop guy, Rob.
Bring back Party Carl just bring back the dance moves from the Party Carl era.
There you go. Have a good day, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll see you at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Carl.
See ya.